I need to learn to pose whenever I talk about a book because I know so many of you have creepy screenshots of me on your phone. And I know I make too many faces. If you want, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be one of the most anticipated book videos of the year, the best books that I have read in 2021. So this is part of my end of the year book series. I will be linking the other videos down below. So far, I have uploaded the most surprising and most disappointing books that I have read throughout the year, and I still have to post my worst, which once it's up, it's also going to be linked. I look forward to this video every year. These are the best books that I have read. Would love to hear your thoughts on the books I will be mentioning, but also the ones that you have read that you have loved, because we all need more books added to our TBRs, right? They're in no particular order, however. Special mention to this one, Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Stormlight Archives series, and I absolutely adore this one. I read book one, definitely did enjoy it, made it to my best last year, but this was just a whole other level. I absolutely adore his world building, his magic system, but I think that this one specifically, you could really tell how much he has improved in terms of characters, and his endings are always great, but that one specifically, I will include a clip. I tried to vlog it, and that was my reaction to a twist at the end of this book. No spoiler in this video, but I didn't see it coming, at least not like that, not this early, and I was in shock, still kind of am, and I am so looking forward to continuing this series. I can't even explain the plot because it is so incredibly complicated. Basically like war between two groups of people. Is it like, would you even call them like race? Species? I don't know, but it's incredibly entertaining. Absolutely adore it. Both of the books that I have read in this series are like over 1,000 pages. I think they all are. And I don't even mind. I will continue to push through and read 1,000 pages fairly easily just to continue enjoying this series. So if you have yet to read anything by him, this might not be the first series I would recommend. I will link down below. I did do a video reviewing all the books that I have read by him and mention where I would start depending on your taste, but it's not also the worst way. It's amazing. Highly recommended. Highly super popular for a reason. Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I adore this book. I read it earlier this year and I have been thinking about it ever since. The author, I have a couple of her books, but this is the first book that I have read by her. For some reason, I've been really intimidated by her work. She talks about really difficult topic, whether it's like feminism or in this case, slavery. And she uses like sci-fi elements or a little bit historical fiction to discuss them. In this case, you're following a black woman, 26-year-old black woman living in California in 1976. And she is sent 150 years prior in Deep South, and she has to struggle to figure out what's going on, trying to survive there. And she goes back and forth between the timelines. And this book was so raw. It's less than 300 pages, but some of the scenes are still marked into like my brain, and I will continue to rave about this book and talk about it and think about it all the time. A few things, like for example, one of the men that enslaved people is seen like such a like decent person, but he has literally no empathy for her or any of the other enslaved people, and she has more empathy for him than she does for her, basically. And having to see her struggle with that notion is just so difficult to read. There was in the scene you have little children playing like slave market, or there's another scene where someone is telling her that, you know, slavery happened so long ago, why are you still complaining about it? From the first sentence, I was completely obsessed because it starts with, I lost an arm on my last trip home. Like when a book starts with the first sentence like that, you know it's going to be a really good book. So yes, if you have yet to read anything by her, I would highly recommend this one. I'm definitely planning on reading more by her, but yes, this was easily 5 stars. If you had told me in the beginning of the year that this book would make it in this video, I would not have believed you. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series, so The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I don't know, I feel like fantasy has been very hit and miss for me, and I haven't been reading as much. But I'm looking at the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video, and a lot of them are fantasy, so I guess it's still working for me, even though I'm hesitating to read a lot. But this was so much better than I expected. The characters were more likable than I thought they were going to be. I really enjoyed how they all had their own stories. You can see like the beginning of their journey, because it's going to be such a long series, which probably is why I was super scared to begin, because like I don't want to commit to so many books. I was also scared that it probably was going to be another pretty sexist fantasy book. I feel like older ones, there's always some sexism, but so far, at least for the first book, I haven't encountered anything that put me off. I also was so annoyed by Matt. I vlogged it for the Patreon book club, and literally the whole vlog is me trying to figure out what else he's going to do. Like, how is he going to mess up again? So Matt, definitely a character that marked me. I think the only negative stuff I can think of is towards the end. The ending was the weakest point, in my opinion. And the romances, which were not big throughout the whole book, but at the end it comes out of nowhere and I just didn't really care for it. I'm currently reading book 2. It's too early to really have an opinion. I'm currently in reading slump anyway. It's not due to the book, it's definitely me and the weather, or just the world right now. But I am trying to read it so I can actually watch a TV show. If you have started it, please let me know how it's going. Are you enjoying it? Don't spoil it, but let me know, so it might give me the little kick in the butt to actually finish book 2. But yes, I really enjoyed book 1 a lot more than I expected. Actually, if I have to choose a favorite character, it's probably going to be super random, but that one character, can't look up the name because spoilers online, right? But she's like predicting their futures. She was really cool. I want more of her in the series. So yes, really enjoyed that one. I definitely want to know also more about the witches, because always, right? I also obviously needed to talk about The Sword of Kaijin. I, for some reason, had this book for like 2-3 years on my Kindle, and I had yet to pick it up. I kept forgetting to read it. It's a standalone, adult standalone fantasy, and it was self-published, and it is so freaking good. It took me a while to get fully immersed into their universe. I think I struggled because the main female character, she grew up in a pretty progressive family, went to an international school to learn to fight and magic, and then she married into a very conservative family that basically live in a small village, remote village, and she has just basically accepted her fate. So it was really frustrating to read about her. But the empire is now under attack and they have to protect everyone. You also follow the arc of her teenage son trying to find his place. There's also magical school, if anyone is interested. I'm always a fan. And also his relationship with his father, who is once again very conservative and silent and quiet and hard to, not very emotional basically. And about the midpoint of the book, my opinion completely changed. I absolutely adored it. The magic, like I said, the fighting, but mostly it has some of the best characters arcs I have ever read. I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. I kind of wish it wasn't a standalone, but I'm happy that it is, I feel like we need more fantasy that are standalones. But yes, if you still haven't picked it up, I highly recommend you do yourself a favor and do. Speaking of fantasy series, we have the First Blood trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. The first book being The Blade itself, which I read the first book, absolutely adored it. That's why it's in here. I actually need to finish this series. Next year, I'm doing a series challenge because I start series very easily, but I never finish them. But this one is going to be in there because I really enjoyed it. Someone mentioned that it feels a little bit like a prologue, which I don't disagree, and I usually hate that. But it really worked with this one. You're following 3 characters who are completely different, and I really liked how the writing reflected that. So you have someone that used to be like a villain and is now becoming a hero. You have what I would just call F-boy, and then you have the opposite, the guy that used to be a hero and is now basically a villain. And Klokta, that character, is my favorite in the whole book. I absolutely adore him. I thought he was really funny and interesting, and I can't wait to see where the story is going because there's a ton of potential. But yes, it does feel a little bit like a prologue because the story is basically beginning at the end of the first book, but I can't wait to continue because this was great. The hype was real. I approve. I need to do a video about that. Like, fantasy books, are they worth the hype? They're really popular ones. Let me know if you would like to see that. But that one, so far, I'm happy with it. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I am like 15 years late with this one. I had no intention of reading this. Like none. I was doing one of my favorite challenges, which is 1 week, 1 shelf. Basically, I put the number of all of my shelves in a jar, pick one, and I have to read solely books from that shelf that week. And I picked this really random shelf that has like mystery thriller horrors that just don't have like nice covers, like that shape. Mass market paperbacks, not my thing. So I can't make them real pretty. So I shove a bunch of things there that I kind of forgot I had, including this one. And I decided to read the first chapter of a couple to figure out which one I liked the writing most, and this was the winner. And I read it so quickly. My edition has like 800 something pages, and I flew through this in a couple of days. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. I mean, it's definitely very, very popular. I'm super late, but it starts a little complicated, but essentially you're following this financial journalist who's hired by this really rich man to figure out a mystery that happened to him years ago. A family member basically disappeared or got murdered on an island when there was an event where solely the family pretty much was on said island. So whoever did it had to be part of like someone that is close to him, and he doesn't want to die and leave his fortune without knowing what happened. So the journalist is basically trying to figure it out in that small village, which I like cozy mysteries, even though like I don't know if it counts as cozy, but to me it does because of the small village. So absolutely adored it. Gave it 5 stars easily. I also really appreciated how the author tried to talk about topics like misogyny in his series. I believe the series is actually called in every other languages except English, Men Who Hate Women. So it's only in English that it's called Millennial series. I don't know why. I also read book 2, which I did overall enjoy. I just had a few issues, that's why it's not part of this video, but I really, really loved book 1. And I can't wait to read book 3. Also needed to mention Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. This was my first 5 stars of the year. First one, first month of the year. I actually had DNF'd, like put down a book by her that same month, so I was a little scared, but absolutely adore this. This is 33 pages. So if you're still trying to hit your reading goal, actually for 2021 or even next year, pick it up. It's a very quick read. I actually did a video recently where I was reading bad reviews of books that I loved, and I did the opposite while drinking wine. So if you want to watch that shit show, I'll link that down below. But literally the only bad comments were people saying that it was political, which I don't think it was, but kind of, I guess. But absolutely loved it. Very quick read, very entertaining, and I just want to read more by the author. Out of the Forward collection, this was my favorite, easily. The next book broke my heart, A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I think he has become, after this year, one of my favorite authors. I think he writes really great characters and his stories break my heart. I tend to be a little careful with like contemporaries that tend to like play with your emotions. I feel like I easily feel manipulated, which it's definitely the goal with these kind of stories, to make you cry, you know, evoke some feelings in you. Yes. But I feel like when they're badly written, I just don't like it. But in this case, I didn't cry, but like misty eyes, you know? You follow the stories of a couple women in Afghanistan, basically talks about child brides, domestic violence, multiple wives, and it was such a difficult read, but I highly recommend it. It's a little older and it's really popular, so you might have already picked it up, but if you haven't, if you're like me and you're late, totally worth the read. The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. I think this is the only book here that might not be unanimously loved. I personally really enjoyed it. It's an adult fantasy once again. I swear, I feel like I didn't read that many fantasies this year, but so many of them made it to this video. In this book, you're following a main character who had no intention of ever participating into the war, but epic revenge story begins, keeping it vague, and he has to learn how to fight, and he's starting like way down. I really enjoyed the world building and the little bit of the magic system that we got. I really am hoping that we're gonna get more in book 2, which I will be reading next year for sure. Also really enjoyed the friendships in here, and I think the only thing negative that I have to say would be that the ending is the weakest part, and I didn't really care for the romance, but that's a pretty common complaint from me. I think there's just a ton of potential with this series. I'm looking forward to seeing if it actually gets better and better with the rest. And there are dragons. Obviously, that makes it better, right? Last but definitely not least, I needed to rave about A Psalm for the Well-Built by Becky Chambers. She's one of my all-time favorite authors. She writes very character-driven sci-fi, but it's very accessible sci-fi. With this book, you're following a version of a world where one day robots got up and just left us to our own devices, wanted nothing to do with us. And you follow a main character who is a non-binary monk trying to figure out the meaning of their life. And it's very character-driven, tea discussions, and it's great. There's just something about her writing that makes me feel super comfortable, like makes me feel like home, and I can't rave about her enough. And this is going to be, I believe, a duology, and book 2 is coming out next year, which I will absolutely be reading. Although it might not have been my best reading year in terms of how many books I have read, I do think I still got quite a few new favorites. I feel like if you've been watching most of my videos, you have seen some of these quite a few times because I really, really enjoy them. But I would love to hear your opinion on all of these and any of the books that you have read, that you have loved, that you want other people to check out. I can't wait for 2022 to find new favorites also. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. You don't want to miss out my worst coming out very soon. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in a coming video very soon. Bye. Lonely, you're the reason why I can feel those butterflies.